Om Dakshinasya Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryanta Smarya Guru Parampara Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaran Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Parijnanashrama Shri Guru Shankara Parijnanashrama Shankara Sadguru Keshava Vamana Krishna Panduranga Ananda Parijnana Guru Sadyo Jata Shankara Sadguru sorry Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now we are looking into what is actually the very Swarupam of Bhakti. And please remember all the time that Narada Bhakti Sutras are talking about Parabhakti. Of course, the sutras also talk about Apara Bhakti or Bheda Bhakti also, but the predominance or the core of the teaching of Narada Bhakti Sutras on Bhakti is about Parabhakti or Abheda Bhakti. And now we are seeing the various, what do we call it as the very Swarupam, or what is so unique about this Bhakti. We can call it the Swarupam, the very inherent nature of this Bhakti. And we saw almost quite a number of verses we saw in this. And the last, sutra which you saw was the sutra number 11 in the last session, where it is said that, see, what Narada is doing here is from the 7th verse onwards, or sorry, the 7th sutra, I should be very specific, we are dealing with sutra. From the 7th sutra onwards, Bhagwan Narada, Maharshi Narada, is talking about the very Swarupam of this Bhakti, and one word of each sutra is being explained in the next sutra. So, I hope you are following the Sangati between the sutras. Now, if you see the 7th sutra, it said, Sa na kamayamana nirodha rupatva, being of the nature of renunciation, internal renunciation, psychological, emotional renunciation. And what is that nirodha? What is that renunciation? That was explained in the 8th verse, which talked about nirodhastu loka veda vyapara nyasa. Okay, so it said loka veda vyapara nyasa. Okay, then in the next verse, he also talked about, the next aspect of it, where he said, Tasmin ananyata tad virodhishu udasinatacha. All this I have explained in great detail. We had gone through all these sutras. Actually, I think I'm taking a long time for each sutra, but it doesn't matter, as long as it clears the picture for us, as long it clearly tells us what Bhagwan Deva Maharshi Narada is trying to say. Okay, then he said in the previous verse, that ananyata or that bhakti which we saw in the 9th verse, he said, what is that nyasa? What is the nyasa? Nirodhatu Loka Veda Vyavahara Nyasa. So, what is that Nyasa? He talked about that Nyasa, and in that he said, Anya Ashrayanam Tyagaha Ananyata. That means what? Ananyata, the word in the previous, sutra. He said, what is Ananyata? Means giving up dependence on anything else. Understanding that Ishvara Yeva Asti, Tad Ishvara Ahameva Asmi. In understanding this, then, I don't depend upon any other ashraya. And that is what is called as Anya Ashrayanam Tyagaha Ananyata. What is Ananyata? That was what was talked about. Then in the next verse, in the 11th verse, it talked about Loka Vedeshu Tad Anukula Acharanam Tad Virodhishu Udasinata. There was one word Udasinata in the previous sutras also, where Maharshi Narada said, interest only in those vyavaharas or those things that are conducive to the ananyata or in that Ishvara, the bhakti. Anything other than that, which doesn't align itself to the bhakta's way of life, he does not hate it. But there is that udasinata. And what is that udasinata? That was talked about in the 11th verse. Loka Vedeshu tad anukula acharanam tad virodishu udasinata. So that was again what is udasinata. So what is nyasa? What is ananyata? What is udasina? What is, an anya ashrayanam tyagaha? All these things were explained in a set of sutras which connected the previous sutra with the next sutra. Now we have to go to the 12th sutra. And here Narada Maharshi wants to give a word of caution to the bhakta. Why a word of caution? Many times a bhakta tends to become overconfident, very overconfident. Ahankara comes from the back door. You see, earlier, I am the doer. I have done this for this particular sake. Because of me, this happened. All this, there is a lot of ahankara regarding aham mama, aham mama. But the ahankara can come in a very different way. We call it as the backdoor entry. Ahankara is well known for that. Ahankara, if it is, kind of restricted in one way, it comes from some other route. Many of the bhaktas are likely to have a ahankara about being the bhaktas. Being the bhaktas. I'm so close to my guru. My guru never sends without, talking to me. These are the talks which people talk. Okay. There also, there is a sense of ahankara in that. Okay. I am a great bhakta. Ravana had that ahankara. Ravana, who had literally, he had sakshatkara with Saguna Rupa of Mahadeva, and he created the Shiva Tandava Stotra in praise of Lord Shiva, Ravana. A person who was literally, given the boon of 10 heads by Lord Shiva. Now, all these things, though Lord Shiva was his Ishtadevata, he did the puja regularly. In spite of that, Ravana had a great ahankara that he is one of the greatest of Shiva Bhaktas. He always prided on that. So, many times it so happens that Bhaktas in their spiritual journey of Bhakti and Jnana are likely to start feeling a kind of a superiority complex and start feeling that I am a great Bhakta and I can do whatever I want. Bhagwan will protect me. I can behave in any way I want. Bhagwan will protect me. It's a sense of power, like a politician who's in power feels that he can do anything and get away with it. It can happen in bhakti also. A bhakta has to be very careful at every step, whether he's a karma yogi bhakta as an ekarupa ishvara bhakta or a vishwarupa ishvara bhakta as an upasaka or a jnani bhakta, whoever it may be, whatever it may be. Once I start getting the ahankara that I have the power over my Ishtadevata, I am a bhakta par excellence, and I can do anything and get away with it. That kind of an ahankara is possible. And in such an ahankara, a bhakta may tend to forget the shastra. A bhakta may forget to go through or follow whatever shastra is talking about dharma. Many times a bhakta can even take up to a life of adharma, like what Ravana did. Great bhakta, great Shiva bhakta, but he took to a life of adharma. He did not go by the shastra. Although he was supposed to be a scholar, he was supposed to be a great jnani, but then he did not follow the tenets of shastra. He was completely waylaid by his asuri sampat. The asuri sampat in Ravana or all the other, there are so many other, asuras who are also great jnanis. There were also people, who knew, who had actually, got a lot of boons from various, gods and goddesses. But then the pravritti in them remained asuri. And what is the Shastra's purpose? In this line of self-knowledge, either for a karma yogi or an upasaka or a jnana yogi, a bhakta at any of these stages, Shastra is like something which is, the one which gives break points. Shastra is that which tells me you may be anything. You may be a mumukshu. You may be a great bhakta. But then you cannot transgress dharma. And of course, as a jnani bhakta, one never transcends dharma because he becomes very Ishvara itself he is. But earlier, a bhakta who is in his progress, in his, like in the marga, in the bhakti marga or jnana marga, there are always possibilities that he may be waylaid by his own ahankara. And Shastra is there at every step to guide a mumukshu as to what is to be done, what is not to be done. This path of a mumukshu is very slippery. One can slip very badly because there are vasanas which we have not yet, mastered over. There are certain basic tendencies with which we are born. So what happens is there is always a chance of my slipping because of my attractions of the indriyas to the world outside. And being a bhakta, and if I have that overconfidence and arrogance that I am a bhakta and I can do what I want, live the way I want, it doesn't matter, that doesn't work. And therefore, even a bhakta has to surrender to the Shastra. A bhakta also has to be in protection of the Shastra. That is what the 12th sutra is talking about. He says, Bhavatu nishchaya dardhyadurdhvam shastra rakshanam. Bhavatu, let it be such that nishchaya dardhyad urdhvam. After my commitment to being a mumukshu, after my commitment to being a karma yogi, an upasana yogi, a jnana yogi, and ultimately commitment to moksha, commitment to that ultimate goal, even after this purushartha nishchaya. What is nishchaya? Dardhyad urdhvam means what? It means even after I have made the Purushartha Nishchaya, that I want moksha as the Purushartha. And I am following the tenets of Shastra and going through Karma Yoga as a Bhakta, Upasana Yoga as a Bhakta. I told you that no stage in a mumukshu's life can be without bhakti. Bhakti is not a separate sadhana. Bhakti is the very adhishtanam of all the sadhanas of a mumukshu. Without Ishvara's presence, without Ishvara's acknowledgement, without connecting with Ishvara, I cannot be a karma yogi. Without being connected to Ishvara, I cannot be an upasaka. Without being connected to Ishvara as a jignasu, I can't be a jnana yogi. And of course, as a jnani, I am Ishvara. I told you in the last session. Saha Ishvaraha aham tasya bhaktaha is the first stage. Okay? That is Ishvaraha asti aham tasya bhaktosmi. Second stage is Ishvara eva asti. But then Ishvara is there. I have not left Ishvara. And the last stage, Saha Ishvaraha ahameva asmi. The Parabhakti, that is the stage of Parabhakti, Parakashta Bhakti. That is the ultimate bhakti. In all these stages, one has to be a bhakta. That's why Bhagwan Krishna said, Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta, Jignasu Bhakta, Jnani Bhakta, Karma Yogi as Bhakta. Every sadhana in moksha prapti is bhakti only. No sadhana can be separated from bhakti. Therefore, bhakti is the very foundation of all the sadhanas. It's not a separate thing to be followed. It is the very life and the very content of all the sadhanas. So he says, Nishchaya Dardhyad Urdhvam. After having decided that moksha is my Purushartha, it means I have simultaneously decided and committed myself to Ishvara as a bhakta. It's my commitment to being a bhakta. Being committed to moksha purushartha means my being committed to bhakti as a bhakta to Ishvara. At every level, at every step, I as a mumukshu is connected with Ishvara. So even after that purushartha nishchaya also, Shastra Rakshanam. Shastra Rakshanam. I cannot behave the way I want. Dharma has to be there. I cannot alienate myself from dharma. And what is it that tells me what is dharma, what is not dharma? What is it that tells me which is samanya dharma, which is vishesha dharma? What is it that tells me that in a certain situation, in a certain, as a certain, person belonging to a certain varna and ashrama, what is my dharma? What is my dharma as a patni, as a pati, as a putra? What is my dharma? All this is Shastra. And how to connect with Ishvara if I'm interested in, elaborate, kaya, vacha, manasa, karma, how to connect. I can't do something and get lost in that. Therefore, he says, Nishchayadardhyat urdhvam shastra rakshanam. So, I cannot give up the rules of dharma. Dharma means how I conduct myself in the society with other people. That which binds me to the society as an integral member of the society. There are certain rules of conduct which I have to follow, and that is dharma, and that is nothing but Shastra. So, therefore, being a bhakta, I can't simply say that I'm a bhakta and I have got special favors with Ishvara or my Ishtadevata. Whenever I pray for something, it definitely happens. There are some people who say that. My God has never let me down. Whenever I pray, it happens. Good to have that kind of a connection, strong connection, and that kind of total, confidence. But then, if that becomes an ahankara, it can make me go out of dharma, out of the conduct. And therefore, I can even say that, I'm an Ishvara Bhakta, I can do anything. I need not follow the law of the land. I need not follow the social laws. That does not happen. I have to. Therefore, when I decide also, I have to be under the protection of Shastra. That is how Shastra protects me. Shastra is meant to protect a mumukshu and his entire journey, Guru and Shastra. That is why Ishvara, Guru, and Shastra grace is very important in this entire journey of a mumukshu. Then what about a Jnani Bhakta or a Parabhakta? It is said that a Parabhakta actually starts protecting the Shastra. That is, once the Abheda Bhakti comes, once I understand Saha Ishvaraha Ahameva Asmi. This Jnanam, with this knowledge, where I see Abheda between me and Brahman, me and Ishvara, then I become the protector of Shastra. How? I teach. I give, I know, I kind of distribute, or I try to say what the Shastra says. And even as a Jnani Bhakta, naturally I am a follower of Dharma. I don't have to force myself. But during my other earlier periods of a Bhakta, there is always a chance of being waylaid by my own weaknesses. And therefore, as long as I am an Abheda Bhakta abiding in Atman Parabhakta, I have to be under the protection of Shastra. Shastra means Vedas. Shruti Granthas, Smriti Granthas also. They are called as the Shastra, which protect us from falling from our path. Very, very narrow path it is. Very, very, slippery path it is. So, Shastra protects us. But once I am a Jnani Bhakta, a Parabhakta, then I become the protector of Shastra by talking about it, by giving the secrets of the Shastra to others, by teaching what Shastra says. So then, as a Jnani Bhakta, I become the protector of Shastra. So Shastra Rakshanam has to be taken in, these ways. It means initially I am taking the protection of Shastra. And later on, when Mahavakya Vichara has made its full impact on me, I have fully understood Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Ishvara Saha Ishvaraha Ahameva Asmi, Tad Brahma Ahameva Asmi iti. This jnanam which makes me a parabhakta or a jnani or a sthita prajna, a sthira prajna, vidwan, buddha, all these jnani, that I become the Shastra. There's no difference there's no difference between me and Ishvara. There's no difference between me and Shastra also. And I protect the Shastra. I protect it in the form of disseminating the Shastra to the society. Being a person in authority to guide the other people as to what is Dharma and what is Adharma. Teaching of the Shastras in the form of teaching of Veda, Vedanta, and propagating the Shastra so that it does not become stagnant. Therefore, Shastra Rakshanam happens in two ways. I take the protection of Shastra in the initial stages as a Bheda Bhakta or an Apara Bhakta, and as an Abheda or Parabhakta, I myself become the protector, sustainer, and what you call as the, dispenser, or, trying to continue the Shastra Pravaha. Why is it that a Bhakta should take the protection of the Shastra, even though I am a Bhakta committed to a lifestyle of Bhakti and Purushartha Nishchaya of Moksha? Why? 13th Sutra says, Anyatha patitya ashankya. Patitya ashankaya. Anyatha patitya ashankaya. As I told you initially, anyatha. If I don't follow the Shastra as a bhakta, if I don't take the protection of Shastra as a bhakta, patitya ashankaya, because of the fear of fall. There is a possibility of a fall. Why? Because still, as a bhakta, I have still not become totally a vairagi. No vairagya, total vairagya is not there. Yes, Ishvara is my main commitment. Connecting with Ishvara is my main commitment. All that is there. However, my natural tendencies are there. Vasanas are there. The surrounding people are there. My old habits are there. In this life also, I have picked up certain old habits which go on and on and on and on. All these are there to pull me. And I won't even know when I have fallen, when I slipped. There is a Kabir's Doha. No, it's not a Doha, it's actually a bhajan. Kabir's Nirguni bhajan, where he says, Rah barik Gurudev ne payi hai. Rah barik. Rah means this path of moksha as my Purushartha Nishchaya, which I have taken up, this path. Barik means very difficult. It's a path which is very slippery, easy to slip. But the Guru has found it, how to go through that. He has found a way. This barik or this very, very narrow path, dangerous path also, the Guru knows how to cross. And it's the Guru and Shastra which protect. So here, what Maharshi Narada is saying is, in that narrow, slippery path where there is a possibility of patityam, fall, not that anybody else is going to push me, my own weaknesses, my own ragadveshas, my own inherent, attractions towards the world of objects, which I have not yet been able to have any kind of a mastery. Still, I'm, in the process. I am a bhakta, no doubt, but still, I may not be able to handle the very strong pull of the indriyas and the mind. And therefore, he says that if a bhakta does not take the support of Shastra, if the bhakta thinks that as an individual, I am committing myself to Ishvara and that is enough, that happens much later. After long time, it happens. Not initially. It may take lives and lives for a bhakta, where I say, I leave everything to Ishvara because there is only Ishvara. I have to reach that stage. Till that stage, I am likely to get completely misled by my own weaknesses. So he says, Patitya ashankaya anyatha. Anyatha means if I don't take the support of Shastra, then I can just get flown away. It's like a person who is learning to swim, who's not yet a swimmer, learning to swim. And because of overconfidence, the swimmer tries to go by himself without taking the support of whatever support is there for a learner. Then what happens? It is like that. I may get completely drowned into the samsara again, even worse than before, because now I have got an ahankara of a bhakta. At least earlier I had the ahankara of a normal ignorant person. But if I develop that I am a great bhakta and with that ahankara, if I feel that bhakti or my association or my commitment to bhakti is going to give me the license to live and do whatever I want, there is the fall. That is the reason he says that it is very, very important to take the support of Shastra. When Bhagwan Krishna in the 16th chapter of Daivi and Asuri Sampatti also talks about this in a particular verse, the 23rd verse, I've made a note of it here. He says, Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya Vartate Kamakarataha. A Kamakarataha is a Bhakta, okay, but even Bhakti he is using for his personal, fulfillment of his personal desires. Such a person, a Kamakarataha, Yaha Shastra Vidhim Utsrujya Vartate. The one who behaves, leaving aside the injunctions of Shastra or Vedas, sa siddhim avapnoti, na sukham, na param gatim. 23rd verse of chapter 16. Such a person, Shastram utsrujya yaha, okay, vartate, behaves in the society purely out of selfishness and out of a bhakta ahankara, a fatter ahankara, a more bloated ahankara. Saha na siddhim avapnoti, doesn't get anything. Even bhakti does not give its due to him. Because the arrogance and the ego is so much. Na sukham na paramgati. Nothing happens. That's what happened. That is Asuri Sampatti. That is what happened to Ravana and all the other asuras, who thought that nothing could harm them. Then here in the next verse, next sutra, 14th sutra, Bhagwan Narada Maharishi says, Lokopi tavadeva kintu, Lokopi tavadeva kintu bhojanadi vyaparaha tu asharira dharanavadhi. Okay, so lokopi, okay, lokaha api, okay, even in the way I deal with the world outside, lokaha api, loke api also, in the loka, in the world. See, just because I'm a bhakta, it doesn't mean that I'm away from this world, isn't it? I have to interact with this world. I have to do vyavahara with this world. The world is around me. So many things are there. So many distractions are there. I have to play so many roles. I'm not yet fit for sannyasa. I'm a bhakta trying to get into the lifestyle of a mumukshu at such a time when I cannot completely get out of loka vyavahara, lokaha api. This world in which I am doing the vyavaharas. To what extent can I go into these vyavaharas? So he says, Loka vyavahara lokaha api tavadeva. I should really restrict myself in this bhakti. The bhakta restricts himself to the local vyavahara, worldly vyavahara, whatever is necessary. Bhojanadi vyaparahatu a sharira dharanavati. Because I have to continue to play my role. I have to take care of this body. Bhojanadi, that means what? Food, etc. Etc. means so many things. Food, water, protection of the body in the form of a dwelling place, protection in the form of clothing to the body, protection in the form of medicines for the disease. All these are sharira dharana avadihi, till this sharira is there. I have to do certain local, I have to do vyavahara also. Just saying that I am a bhakta and sitting in meditation, that is, not possible. To whatever extent I am supposed to perform in this prapancha, according to my prarabdha, according to the role, the duties that are there for me to be done. Okay? So long, the world continues to be with us as a separate entity with which we have to do vyavahara. That understanding that I am not different from the world, I am not different from Ishvara is the ultimate knowledge. But all of us are not there. We are mumukshus, no doubt. We have done the Purushartha Nishchaya, no doubt that we are committed to moksha. But still, we have our roles to play. We have our prarabdha to fulfill. And the activities that a bhakta does in the world are minimized. Minimized to what extent? Whatever is absolutely needed. Unnecessary activities are avoided. Naturally, isn't it? Because so much time goes in it, so much of energy goes into unnecessary activities. Not only that, it can even draw my attention to where it is not necessary. And my constant concentration, one pointed concentration on Ishvara, my connection with Ishvara, it's possible that these vyavaharas can bring a break into them. And therefore, one has to continue in the world. Even a jnani has to continue in the world. But being a jnani, being a parabhakta, nothing can disturb him because he's abiding in that Atmaswarupam, in that parabhakti where I am not the karta, I am not the bhokta, Ishvara is the karta. I am neither the karta nor the karayita. I am not the bhokta. Very clearly, the parabhakta understands. Therefore, whatever activities he does are vibhutis of Ishvara, are for the sake of Loka Kalyana. But as a bhakta, still as a karma yogi bhakta, or upasaka bhakta, I still have my role to play in this world. So I should learn to restrict my activities to whatever is absolutely necessary. And for that also Shastra helps me. For that also Guru helps me. So as a bhakta, as a committed bhakta to this knowledge, to moksha, I have to think every time. I have to be very, very conscious. Is this necessary for me to do? Is this really needed for me to be done? So I have to really think, I have to all the time be very, very, very attentive. And of course, I cannot stop doing the basic activities for the sake of Jiva Yatra. For this Jiva Yatra, whatever activities are necessary, it has to be done. Otherwise, it is not possible. Nobody is going to, of course, Bhagwan Krishna has said, Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamya. Yes, He will. Lord will provide for me. Lord is so merciful, and for a bhakta, Lord's grace is so much that if I am not able to do it, Lord will provide. But as long as swaprayatna is possible, it is the duty of every sadhaka, every bhakta to do whatever he is supposed to do. Swaprayatna we have to do. And when swaprayatna becomes, even when I do the swaprayatna, how do I do it? With the karma yoga attitude, with the presence of Ishvara, with the anusmaranam of Ishvara. Bhagwan, this is what I have to do now. Maya kartavyam idam. I have to do this now. I'm doing it because it is there to be done for me. But Bhagwan, I take your anusmaranam and do this. And definitely, whatever I do, you only the karta, you only are the karayita. I will simply become an instrument. That's it. That is how I have to, as a bhakta, as I mature in my bhakti, as my bhakti deepens towards the parabhakti, this is how I do. Yes, I do. I don't escape from my responsibilities. I do all that is to be done, but with Ishvara Anusmaranam all the time. Understanding that everything is Ishvara. But this particular thing now, Kartavyam Maya, I have to do it. And I will do it with Ishvara next to me. With Ishvara, not next, or see, Ishvara is everywhere. So I can't even say next. With Ishvara with me. That's it. Ishvara with me as a bhakta. He's always with me. I'm always with Ishvara. And I do this. With that Anusmaranam, I do that. So it is, said that because this kind of a karma, that whatever I do, I take it do it as a karma yogi with Ishvara with me. Neither the karma binds me nor the karma phala binds me. Chitta Shuddhi happens faster and faster. Of course, for a jnani, actually, there is all these karmas are, sanchita karmas are burnt, agami karmas are not yet, they are not going to accumulate as karma phalas. Prarabdha karma, the body, mind, sense complex is fulfilling. So there's no question of that. But for a bhaktas like us, you know, karma can still bind us. Karma phala can still bind us. So in what way do we protect ourselves from getting bound more and more by karma and karma phala? So it is here, it is said that, doing whatever activity is necessary, playing my role to the best possible way, but with the anusmaranam of Ishvara. Doing whatever is needed only, not unnecessary activities. So, this is a true bhakta's existence. This is how a true bhakta conducts himself or herself in this life. Okay, then with this, the second section, the so called second section of the Svarupa of Bhakti, or the very inherent nature of Bhakti, the character of Bhakti, which was talked about. It is over with this now. We come to the next section. Of course, as I told you, these are continuous sutras. But then, for the sake of easy understanding and to very clearly see the sambandha or the sangati between the sutras, some of our acharyas have divided these 85 sutras into various sections, and they are trying to give us a kind of those group of sutras in that particular section are dealing with this particular central topic. That's all they are trying to say, so that it makes our study more of an organized study. Now we are coming to this section where, after having seen the Swarupam of Bhakti, here Bhagwan Narada wants to say how Bhakti is defined by various sages. Because Bhakti is the most misunderstood word actually. Each one of us have our own idea about Bhakti. So how various sages, not saints, various sages, because this is Narada, it comes in Bhagavatam. So how various sages have described, various rishis. First, he gives the definitions given by three rishis, okay? And then Narada gives his own definition of bhakti. So this is like what you call as, how do you define bhakti? Okay, so first somebody asks, so how do you see bhakti? How do you define bhakti? In that case, then each, different rishis, different, people have described bhakti in their different ways. So what are those definitions? That is going to be talked about here. Okay, so we'll go to the 15th verse, one thing. Yeah, 14th we finished. Yeah, we'll go to the 15th sutra, where he says, Talakshana vachyante nanamata bhedat. Nanamata bhedat means different sages and rishis have different ways of defining bhakti, and all of them are correct. Because bhakti is such a broad term, different sages have described it from different points of view. It is like entering, a particular place from many entrances. So it is very difficult. It's really very difficult to define bhakti briefly in its entirety. So, from different points of view, mata bhedat here does not mean different matas, from different points of view. Okay, different opinions are there of different points or different contexts. Many of these rishis, great teachers, acharyas, have defined bhakti. So he says, Narada say, tal lakshanani. Okay, I'm going to give certain definitions of that bhakti, vachyante, as given by Nana Mata Bhedas due to different, well known scholars and rishis, great people, have defined Vachyante, means they have defined, given definition, Talakshanani. Okay? Tatu means what? Bhakti. That Tat Lakshanani, Tal Lakshanani are, that means you can say the Lakshanas or the definitions or the characteristics. Here it is not the Swarupam which we saw earlier. Here it is how it is defined. So let us see the first definition, that is Sutra number 16. Pujadishu anuraga iti parasharyaha. Parasharyaha. Who is Parasharyaha? Sage Parashara's son. He's Parasharyaha. And who is Sage Parashara's son? Bhagavan Vedavyasaha. Vedavyasaha is the son of Parashara. So Parasharya is the name given to Vedavyasa. Parasharya means he is the descendant of Parashara or the son of Parashara. We call it in grammar as Tadhita. Tadhita Pratyaya. Tadhita means it is, that which is off. That which is off. So Parasharya means that one who is of or belongs to Parashara. Parashara Rishi's descendant or son. He is none other than Vedavyasa. Shri Vedavyasa is the son of Parashara. How does he describe? How does he give? How would he define bhakti? Because Vedavyasa is the author of Puranas, isn't it? Therefore, Vedavyasa's definition of bhakti is, what we see in all the Puranas. He says, Pujadishu anuragaha. Pujadishu. Puja adishu anuragaha. That means worship of the Lord, he says, is nothing but bhakti. Now, when you say worship, what is the meaning of worship? In worship, when we take worship as a sadhana, okay, what are the three things that are required in worship? It could be a kayika worship, okay? Worship or puja, you can say. Worship or puja. Kayika puja, vachika puja, manasa puja. Correct? So all the three are involved. We cannot do a puja or worship without any of these. All the three are involved. Initially, at least, when there is lot of rajas in me, I need to do a lot of physical activities to convert my rajasic mind to a sattvic mind. Therefore, a lot of physical activities are given in the puja. Give this one ahvan, avahanam you do, and you do this and you do that. You give the padyam, you give the argyam, and you give the this one. All these physical activities. Straight away we can't sit for meditation. Correct? So all these Shodasha Upachara Puja, yeah, whatever puja, Panchayatana Puja, whatever puja we do, there is what? First, there is a Kayika component in that, doing all those things, doing the arti, putting this one, all those things, some mudras we are using, we are doing certain movements. We know that when we are doing the pujas daily in our, lives, every day of our, we know that what we do. So Kayika worship is there. Then Vachika. where we are chanting certain mantras, we are chanting certain namas, and then we are offering prayer, Vachika. Then it is there with the mind. Mind means what? With the mind, where there is, after all that is done, after the basic puja has been done with the body, then after having done all the archana and all the sahasranama and whatever ashtottara that has been done, then what do? We sit silently, quietly, meditating upon the deity, isn't it? Manasika japa that we do, isn't it? And before all this starts, not only for the karmendriyas, for the jnanendriyas also should get happiness out of doing this bhakti. Therefore, what do? We do so much of alankara to the Lord, isn't it? In, when we are doing our puja, we do so much of alankara. We decorate, whether it is a photograph or whether it is a vigraha, that decoration, whatever fancy we have in our mind. Like we see during Ashtami, every day we dress up Lord Krishna in, a different, attires. Devi is dressed up in different attires during Navaratri. Now that is, a bhakta's way of, fulfilling that whatever he finds fulfillment in that. The jnanendriyas are also imagining my deity has to be like this today. My deity, my Ishtadevata has to look like this. And then I do all that. So in this all, the jnanendriyas are involved, the karmendriyas are involved, especially, in the form of the vachika, and also we have the mind also involved in this. So with this, what happens here? All aspects of our body, mind, sense complex, the whole body, kayika, vachika, manasa are involved. And Bhagwan Vyasa said, this is the definition of bhakti, where I connect with Ishvara in the form of my Ishtadevata, through my body, through my speech, and through my mind also. So all, it's a total connection. Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, I'm connected. And I'm connected doing certain actions. So he says, this is the Pujadishu Anuragaha. Puja Adi means all that which goes on in the worship, giving naivedya, giving a bath, and then this and abharana, that whole step, puja dishu, all these pujas and chanting, and then all these anuragaha. That means what? I enjoy doing that puja. My daily, sadhana of puja, which I do, anushtanam that I do, I enjoy doing that. So it is puja dishu anuragaha. That is the definition of bhakti given by Bhagwan Vedavyasa, who's also called Parashariya. Then a Maharishi called Garga Maharishi gives another definition, that is the 17th sutra. He says, Kathadishu iti Gargaha. Kathadishu iti Gargaha. Garga Rishi, Garga Maharishi. So what does he say? Stories, listening to the stories and the mahimas of Lord is bhakti. There's something called as Garga Samhita. And this Rishi Garga is supposed to be known for, various stories involving the vibhutis of Ishvara. So, listening to the glories of Ishvara. That's why in North India it's very common. In North India, Katha, Bhagavad Katha, this Katha, that Katha. Katha means what? Listening to the vibhutis of the Lord. And here definitely I am different from the Lord. I am small, limited. Bhagavan is big, unlimited, and all the glories in the form of listening to the Puranas, listening to the Kathas, listening to the glory. Okay, Kirtan. What is that? Bhagavad Kirtan. Kirtankaras. What are they doing? And here, what do we do in that? Shravana Asakti. A bhakta is asakta in the Shravanam of the glories of Lord. So Kathadishu iti gargaha. Kathadishu iti means what? Kathadishu anuragaha iti gargaha. That previous sutras, Pujadishu Anuragaha iti Parasharyah. Here, Kathadishu Anuragaha iti Gargaha. Here the Anuraga word is not mentioned, but we have to do the Adhyaharam, bring that from the previous sutra to this sutra and say Kathadishu Anuragaha iti Gargaha. So, listening. And of course, Bhagavan Narada himself was a great devotee, who has been telling stories in Bhagavatam. Then comes another sage called as Shandilya. I have told you that there is one more Bhakti Sutra called Shandilya Bhakti Sutra, which is very, very parallel to this. Very parallel to Narada Bhakti Sutras. Very, very parallel. Sometimes when the words are very much similar. So what does Shandilya Rishi say? Atmarati avirodhena iti. Okay. In spite of doing all this, Shandilya says, it is done out of Purnatvam. He's talking like Parabhakti. It is definition of a Parabhakti. Atmarati avirodhena. Okay. All these, there is no virodha, constantly dwelling in Atmarati. In the Sukhaswarupa Atma, Parabhakti. Shandilya is giving the definition of bhakti here as Atmarati. Avirodhena, without any hindrance, without getting distracted by anything, constantly abiding in that Sukha Swarupa Atma is the definition of bhakti according to Shandilya. And if you remember Vivekachudamani, you know what Bhagwan Shankaracharya says? Moksha karana samagryam bhaktireva gariyasi. Among all the sadhanas for moksha, bhakti reva gariyasi. And what is bhakti? Swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktiriti abhidhiyate. Swaswarupa anusandhanam. Abiding in my Atma Swarupa is bhakti. That is the greatest sadhana for moksha in the moksha samagri. And that is what here Shandilya Rishi is saying. So here he is giving the definition of Parabhakti. The other two gave Shravanam, interest in listening to the glories, Kirtanam and all that, Katha Kirtanam. And Bhagwan Vedavyasa gave the definition of total involvement in that Ishvara, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. Shandilya says it is unhindered contemplation, abidance in one's Atma Swarupa. Now, Narada finally gives his definition of bhakti, which we will see in the next session because we are already running out of time. We'll go to the 19th sutra next session. Nandantu sadhaka sarve vinashyantu vidushakaha avastha shambhavi mestu prasanno suguru sada sarve bhavantu sukinaha sarve santu niramayaha sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschid dukkham apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat.